Sheffield as a student from London in 1976 and qualified in 1980 in Sheffield. We've now been running this practice as a general practice and a teaching unit for the best part of 27 years.
I trained over 40 years ago and I started off at the Royal Hospital in Sheffield, and then after a short period of being a staff nurse I then went to do midwifery training at the John Radcliffe in Oxford.
I qualified as a speech and language therapist in 1983, worked in general adult work and then specialised in neurology and particularly brain injury rehabilitation.
I did some private practice as a general practitioner in India. After completing my GP training, I had been working as a GP in England.
Okay.
Well, I qualified in Sheffield in 2011.
I trained at Sheffield University for 5 years doing medicine, and now I'm doing my foundation year 2. I'm currently working in A&E.
I think one of the most important things is communication.
I think probably communication is the most important of all. You're working with lots of different people all the time. You need to be able to explain what you're thinking, make sure everyone's on the same page.
To begin with, it's all about being able to speak with your patient, communicate with the patient, get along with the patient, make them feel at ease.
And if you greet them with a smile and some friendly words, then the patient feels much more relaxed.
As an overview, first off, a good strong work ethic, the skills and the ability to concentrate on a task, to see it through.
You need to be resilient. You need to be able to deal with setbacks.
You need to have skills like communication skills and a skill to interact with people of different culture and different socio-economic background as well.
The skill within a practice of actually ensuring professional relationships with the nurse, with your colleagues and with the patients is that needs to be really, really good.
The clinical examination, taking history, making a diagnosis, and of course taking a decision, all these things are important.
And spin plates, keep more than one thing going at once. That's actually probably the most important skill.
I really think individual clinical skills can be learnt by almost anyone, although some people will learn them more rapidly than others.
I really do feel you can learn all the other skills, but you have to do the other skills that you're learning and the competencies while you're communicating effectively with the patient. Right, working in a multidisciplinary team for me is about understanding each other's profession, and I think working in a multidisciplinary team, it's about respecting the individual's practice, understanding it and respecting it, and realising that we're all there to work together.
Being a GP, I'm actually at the center of the patient care, so I have to interact with everybody involved in patient's care.
Establishing, discussing where the boundaries are, so actually making sure that you know who does what and why, and whether anybody else needs to be brought in. And it also means that you have to be constantly up for discussion with people, basically.
I think it's about appreciating the roles that everyone has, that obviously there's doctors of all different grades, but you have support from the nursing team who you have to work quite closely with.
And at the end of the day, we're working together in the best interest of the patient.
Stressful at times, but I would say it is rewarding as well.
Medical colleagues, GPs, human communication science colleagues, dentists, dental nurses, so a wide range of other professionals.
Healthcare professionals, physiotherapists, allied medical professionals.
When in A&E it's paramedics. If you're on the wards, often you work with the occupational therapists. Nurses are definitely invaluable.
Clinically, we work with nurses, we work with phlebotomists, we work with mental health nurses as well.
Physiotherapists, occupational therapists, social workers, clinical psychologists or neuropsychologists.
You work quite closely with the physiotherapists, the occupational therapists and social workers.
Social services, child protection. So what stands out is actually what extra you have done. That is important. What extra achievements you have done, like presentations you have done, or any extracurricular activities that you have done. Most importantly, whether you have got a clear aim in future as to what you are going to do, what you want to be.
This is a really good question. We do get a lot of CVs, and an awful lot of them are very much the same. Almost everyone has been top of their game at school. They've all got good A-levels. Loads of them done fantastic things in different countries and with fantastic work experience. What I'm looking for really is a well-presented CV, but actually a hint of other parts of their character and how they get on with other people, what they've done for other people, what they've done to help other people. That would be key to me, because it would show me that this is someone who actually cares about helping people and wants to help people. I would also look for other aspects of life so that someone's work-life balance could be correct.
It's about going that extra mile and doing different things that are going to enhance them as an individual and therefore ultimately their practice. So it's about people who've done things which are extracurricular, can demonstrate some leadership, who've put themselves forward to volunteer. I think all of these things can help to develop a well-rounded person. These days we could have a lot of people who have all done the same things. So it's really looking for the individual who's gone the extra mile.
Firstly, presentation. I think it's really, really important people get the message that if there are errors in it of presentation, typographical errors, spelling errors, it means you didn't look at it long enough. And because it's the first impression that people make, it's really important to put that time in, because otherwise things will go on. It immediately puts doubt into a shortlister's mind that somebody's not careful enough, doesn't care enough about the job.
Straight out of university, the qualifications are pretty much the same for everyone, but not everyone is the captain of a cricket team or a hockey team and has organised it for other people, or has worked with charities, or has worked in a theatre group and helped organise groups together. That's the sort of thing I'd be looking for as an add-on, for something to stand out from a group of a dozen other CVs.
And it's good to show that you're kind of balanced and can do extracurricular things as well as just your degree. Trying to do things outside as well, whether it's projects that you've done in the hospital with different supervisors. Also extracurricular activities always look good in your favour, things like that demonstrate team working, always kind of give you a bit of an edge across other people if they haven't done that. And any prizes and awards you've managed to win along the way definitely help.
When it comes to an interview and people say, I've always been really interested in this, then really you need some evidence that that's the case. And so it may not be possible to target exactly to an area, a clinical area that you want to go into, but any external things that you can do clinically are useful, any voluntary visits. Reading is useful. People underestimate, I've read this extra. things that demonstrate professional awareness. So being part of committees, whether that's in the university or in some external organisation, just something where you've got an official role and you have to do meeting deadlines and organising people and dealing with difficult people and those sorts of things, because that actually demonstrates a bit of a balance and it's not all just clinical stuff.
I think the important thing is to volunteer for things and don't expect everybody to come to you. I think what's really important and what's going to be really important in the job market in the future is students who are innovative, who have ideas and put those ideas into practice and follow them through.
Firstly, he should have a clear mind as to what he wants to be and what he has done so far to pursue that goal. His ability to lead a team is very, very important, so that will be something that I would like the student to do.
I think it's useful when you're applying for a job to actually demonstrate through scenarios that you've achieved something and achieved over and above what is required of the course.
If, for example, a student has been part of some organisation in the university, whether that's to do with the Students' Union or to do with the workings of the university itself, and has been the representative on that, then that would be documented. That should be documented in a reference, or should be referred to in the CV, and that would be kind of evidence in its own right.
If you can explain how you've been able to develop something in your own practice, then I think the people who are interviewing you or are part of the selection will be very interested, because it makes you a little bit different. A common mistake that people make on their application is that they don't always address all the person specifications and they don't always refer back to the job outline. People who don't say what they have to offer.
It's important that people address those characteristics. Those are the characteristics that the interviewers are looking for in the applications when they're shortlisting and at interview. So those are the characteristics that need addressing.
So you can demonstrate to those who are part of the selection panel or the interview panel that you have considered each aspect and that you have something to offer for each of those.
In the CV, they fail to demonstrate their goal and their aim. So the covering letter of the application should be very crisp.
Most people interview well, but sometimes people turn up and they perhaps don't arrive on time, they're perhaps not appropriately dressed, they're perhaps not appropriately prepared.
In terms of interview, it's kind of the same thing. The interviewers are looking for the same thing, but live.
In our practice here, I would expect people to know that this particular area serves a population group that's in a deprived area. I would expect someone to know that, and if they didn't know that, then I would say that, well, this candidate hasn't prepared for this job.
You've got to show that you can actually, even though you've been taken by surprise by a question, you can think on your feet and come up with some sort of sensible answer.
Interview is a very, very important part. That is where you actually present yourself.
If it's for a job for an associate, it's crucial because it's pretty much all I've got to go on in addition to the CV.
A lot of importance is given to interviews, especially when you're entering a profession like ours.
But equally, I don't think it's possible to really tell what someone's going to be like from a 20-minute, half an hour interview. as to whether they're going to really fit into the practice.
Because it's very important that people can see you as an individual, they can see how you communicate, and how you consider the questions.
It's much more difficult to differentiate between people coming out of university courses because inevitably they haven't got the same level of experience. So the personal performance at interview carries a lot of weight inevitably.
I think the best way to prepare is to have a mock interview and take all those opportunities that you can on board. So request a mock interview.
Think about what you're likely to be asked. Try and think yourself into what would you ask in the same situation, particularly if you have the person specification available to you. If they're looking for those characteristics, what questions would you ask in order to be able to say, does somebody have that characteristic or not?
Speaking to your seniors who have already got a job will be a good idea to get at the things.
Is there anything in the current political climate that's important that's going on so I can demonstrate wider awareness? So I don't just think it's a clinical job. I know that there's stuff going on in the health service. I know there's stuff going on in the country that people are concerned with as it relates to that particular group.
Ask for an informal visit, because that way you do get to know a little bit more about the place that you're going to be considering going to.
I think if you get time, it will be a good idea to visit the place, surgery or whatever, and have a look around, speak to the people, and if possible speak to the doctor as well. So go through your CV and just see what you have written in your CV.
I didn't used to think that appearance mattered as much as it does. But I have to say it's a very important part of the selection process.
Should be smartly dressed, arrive there in time. So while giving the answer, you should ensure that you are very clear.
If you can answer a question and then give an example, then I think people who are interviewing you would be very interested. Do you have non-verbal communication, which is just as important as what you're saying? Do you have eye contact? Do you come over too confident in your answers? I wasn't aware how important it was to know a little bit about each member of the panel.
Question, don't hesitate in asking or asking for a clarification of that question.
Because remember, when you're being interviewed, you're being interviewed for a job, but you're also thinking, would I want to work here? So it's a two-way process.
There's no trick questions. It's obvious what they're looking for when you think about it and go through it logically.
Preparation does show thinking ahead to what you might be asked. I don't think I realised that for quite a long time. Well, until I was on the other side of the desk, actually. And then it becomes obvious whether somebody's just walked in and not really thought about it, or whether they have thought as far as can legitimately be expected.
Any interviews that you have to go for, they're not there to catch you out, they are there to try and get the best responses out of you and show that you are a good candidate.
We are not looking for somebody who is skilled in all the areas. What we are looking for is first enthusiasm to learn.
True enthusiasm for your subject, enjoying what you're doing, is going to help you be successful.
Enthusiasm, that they really, really want to be there and they're excited by it.
I look for somebody who has enthusiasm and is highly motivated and has ideas.
Together you have to actually have the communication skills there to work with a lot of different people.
That they're willing to pitch in with all the dull bits that everybody has to do, all the administrative record form filling stuff and the kind of possibly vaguely unpleasant jobs that get dished out, that people are willing to just put themselves in there.
Being able to prioritise things, I think that's what kind of surprises most people, the workload when you initially start, that you have to be able to stay calm and just take one thing at a time and just not get flustered with it.
I would like a newly qualified graduate, someone who is keen on taking the responsibilities.
That people have a sense of the difference between the stuff that you can actually do on your own and take responsibility for, and the point when you need to ask for help.
Because I don't want to be in an organisation that stays static. I want to be in a learning organisation that takes on board new ideas and moves forward. And you need to have the right people around you for that. Someone who has empathy, someone who has compassion, and someone who likes people.
I think truly caring about what you're doing, caring about your patients, trying to do the best for them, caring about your practice, caring about your staff. I don't think it's much more complicated than that.
Firstly, that is very exciting. It's a very exciting point when you realise that people aren't looking over your shoulder 24 hours a day. It's a bit like when you learn to drive and you get let loose on the road.
It's you making the decisions, and little things like prescribing medication suddenly becomes quite a big deal when it's you and your signature when you start work.
So I think particularly the first 2 or 3 years is a mixture of being really exciting and a bit intimidating. You kind of hang in there until it settles down, and then you start to consolidate some of the information that you've picked up.
What's always very interesting is when you qualify as a nurse, suddenly you're then in a clinical area and there's an expectation, and that is quite unsettling.
Having the support of your other colleagues who are all in the same boat is definitely valuable.
I always respect students when they get towards their final assessment or are starting to feel nervous, because I think there's a lot of responsibility in your hands, and those that don't feel nervous I worry about.
But it's a bit of a ride, but it's quite good.
The only thing that changed for a lot of us is we suddenly had some money to spend and no time to spend it.
I think the most important piece of advice is don't do anything unless you feel as though you've been appropriately prepared to do it, and if you don't know the answer, you ask. And don't be afraid to do that.
I think it's also just recognising your limits though. Don't go into work thinking that you can handle everything and that everything's going to be fine just because you've qualified now. You need to know when you're getting out your depth, and you need to know when to ask for help, and it's more important to be safe.
You do have knowledge, but you don't have the experience. So if in doubt, don't hesitate in asking, always ask. Take the help of your seniors if you find yourself in a difficult situation, rather than tackling the situation yourself.
Try and keep hold of why you went into it. The fact that this is an interesting, all the jobs that people in the faculty are going to do are interesting, challenging, human experience jobs, and it's very easy to end up thinking, to find yourself drowning in paperwork and all that stuff, when actually you need to get up in the morning and think, okay, I'm going to do something interesting.
Don't do anything unless you feel confident to do it.
But then it's recognising that, you are only starting off in your career, you're not meant to know everything.
It's just an interesting field to be in. It's just important to keep on top of that as a joyful life experience.